Hey, folks, welcome to Moment of Clarity. Thanks for joining me. I got a huge show for you. Couple of great guests. I'm also live on rockfin.com/Lee Camp. I'm at youtube.com/Moment of Clarity. But as you know, and we're going to get into this. This is the show to talk about it. As you know, my TV show of 8 years canceled due to U.S. sanctions. All of the old videos on YouTube, all the past episodes, thousands of video clips, all banned globally. And my podcast, Moment of Clarity, deleted from Spotify. But we're going to address that today and creating the alternatives to these big tech platforms that censor us, that try and make sure everyone is giving in, just letting the U.S. propaganda wash over them and not fighting back like some surly so-and-sos. How dare you? So we're gonna get into that with two great guests. But before that, real quick, just if you haven't already, become a member at patreon.com/Lee Camp. Also, after this, I'm going to talk about how I'm starting a new show. I'm starting a new show with Mint Press and Behind the Headlines. And I'm going to tell you more about that after we do the interview portion of the show. But these two guests, incredible individuals in their own right. Sean O'Brien is one of the top guys at Panquake.com. Panquake is a new social media platform that will be out soon. You've heard me talk about it before. And John Kiriakou, the well-known CIA whistleblower, revealed the U.S. torture program. Also an author and a radio host and so many other things. So let's talk with him. Hey, guys.
Hey, Lee.
Hey, happy to be here.
Thanks for joining me. Yeah, these are fucking crazy times, but you two are working on building something positive out of all the rubble.
Man.
I guess let's start. I'm gonna in a minute. While we continue to talk, assuming I can get the technology right, I'm gonna show some of Susie's video, but we'll be talking over it, so people will get to see what Panquake looks like. But I guess let's begin with why we need Panquake. Talk about the state of censorship right now.
Sure, I think John actually would be the best one to start on that, especially because you've experienced censorship directly recently.
Yeah, who would have ever thought that in the United States we would have to deal with some of these issues, Lee? It's honestly, I'm not overusing the word, but it's heartbreaking to me when I hear you say things like you lost a decade's worth of work and thousands of video clips, thousands of hours of work. It's just gone. That's criminal. That should never happen in a place like the United States. Every day I go to my own Twitter profile to see if I've been tagged as an official, mouthpiece of the Russian government.
Right, which they've done to like George Galloway, who's not even connected to RT anymore. They've done it to Ed Schultz, even though he's been dead for 4 years.
Yep, they did. And it occurred to so many of us that we need to fix everything that we complain about being broken on these other sites. I don't even want to say their names because I don't want people to go to them and open new pages. But I mean, we know the big ones, even when they change their names to things that are supposed to sound futuristic. They are not free. They are not fair. They are not transparent. And we need a place to go where we can fix all those different things that we complain about. Make the perfect site. And honestly, I think that's what this is. That's what Panquake is. I had never really heard of it until Susie Dawson introduced me to it. She mentioned it, I don't know, maybe it was about a year ago. And I thought, okay, well, Panquake, Rumble, whatever, Parler, there are a whole bunch of them. And then she and Sean actually showed me a demo. And as a non-tech guy, it just blew my socks off. It was incredible.
What are some of the aspects you like best about it?
Well, it depends on what you're interested in, that will sort of guide you as to what's the most important. For me, it was the fact that there is no outside influence. There's no corporate money for example. There's no government money. They don't answer to anybody. I absolutely love the fact that it's based in Iceland. It's hosted in Iceland. There are no algorithms that are going to push traffic away from you or push paid advertisements to you. Nothing at all like that. It's transparent. It's real. You can customize it. It's everything that we've been waiting for.
So, Sean, tell us about the building of Panquake. It's been going on for a while now. Tell us about the process and what makes it, in the creation of it, what makes it different from so many of the social media sites we use.
So sure. As John mentioned, I don't even really want to talk about those other social media sites, but it's worth saying, we're not a Twitter killer. Twitter is the Twitter killer, right? And what's going on right now is those sites are self-destructing. A lot of the ways in which they do business are exactly the things we won't do.
Well, and I said of Facebook, I guess they had some terrible quarterly earnings recently or something, and I said at the time, oh yeah, they lost like hundreds of billions of dollars in a day or something. And I said at the time, I was like, well, part of what made Facebook great was you could go there for information that was not on your mainstream media, that was not a government outlet. It was alternative information coming that was allowed to come out. And they've spent the past several years, because they're bending over backward for the government, but they've spent the last couple of years destroying any alternative information. Yes. So now, okay, go to Facebook and what? Get CNN? Anybody can do that turning on their TV. What are they getting from Facebook they couldn't get from turning on their TV?
And you know what, Lee, if I could interrupt Sean for 1 second, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Go for it.
I used to do exactly the same thing with Twitter. There were so many alternative sites that I wanted to cover and I couldn't. There weren't enough hours in the day. So what I did is I followed the people whose opinions I respected the most, right? The Ralph Naders and environmental activists and whistleblowers and all these people that I had such respect for. And then they would post stuff from sites that I know I wouldn't have checked. I don't go to ProPublica every day, for example, or to the Marshall Center or the Brennan Center or some of these other important things. I just don't. I don't think about it, but they did. Well, now so many of the sites that I went to Twitter and to Facebook to read, things like Telesur, for example, or RT or Sputnik or, whatever, they're banned. They're banned. That's right. And in the case of Press TV, they're like banned, where the FBI confiscated their website and everything.
They stole their website. People thought websites were safe.
Yeah, and then put a comment like mocking them. We stole your website. Yeah. So, this is going to be the one stop that I'm going to need to make. I'll be able to see what all those people I respect are saying or thinking. I'm not going to have to toggle all around the internet hoping that I didn't miss something. And I'm not going to have to worry that some corporate giant or government entity blocked something that he or she just decided I didn't need to see.
That's right. So, that's the first thing, right? We're very serious about freedom of information. We're a group of folks, many of us activists in this area and in other areas, right? Making sure that information flows can happen much in the way in which they used to happen on the internet, right? But really trying to also come up with our own unique features that allow amplification in a way that no other social network has done before. We started this journey, at the end of January 2021. February to May 2021, we did the project planning and the hiring and, sort of bootstrapping the entity behind Panquake, which, as John explained, is non-corporate, no VC money, none of that. We began doing the actual coding in June, and then by August, October, December, going fall into winter, we just kept doing more and more proof of concept on the pieces of the network. And then we just unveiled a functioning interface, right? And the beauty, the look and feel that we just unveiled the other day. People really love it. That's all said. That's really important stuff. We love that it looks good. We love that it's going to be fun to use. We love that people are going to want to be there and want to share. But we're also serious on the back end of having technology that's censorship resistant. Part of that is a serious blockchain backend, decentralization, right? So although we have core infrastructure in Iceland, we're also going to have decentralized peer-to-peer communication between nodes on the network. And that's extremely important to be resilient in this way. Right? It takedowns, those kinds of things, DDoSing, those kinds of threats on the network are easier to do if you have a centralized, cloud-based thing, right? And we don't want to do a centralized cloud-based thing. We're building something that's actually peer-to-peer, where nodes on the network, aka users, people participating in the conversation, are actually directly connecting to each other and verifying each other as Panquake users. So that's the first thing. No timeline manipulation, right? No advertising. The timeline is a bottomless, beautifully scrolling timeline that just has new content showing up at the top.
And in terms of the no ads, that's one of the things that I feel like gets glossed over, but a lot of people think, oh, ads are kind of annoying, but ads end up controlling the path of, not just social media sites, but so much in our culture, where if you're not selling enough ads, then they're going to change their whole system. They'll do anything to make the ad buyers happy. And it's part of the reason you'll never see CNN do an anti-oil story. Half their ads are oil companies. So by having no ads, it's a huge difference.
So it manipulates the conversation, but even worse than that, as we know, it's advertising surveillance on these other networks, right? These ads are studying you. Literally, you're running code in the background that's trying to personalize the experience. It's building these shadow profiles. This is the kind of stuff, of course, I do at Yale Privacy Lab. We've done years and years of digging into ad brokers, and not just on desktop, browser-based applications, but also mobile applications. They're atrocious. They study people, and they often ally these advertising brokers with governments, government spies specifically. And, every week there's more and more disclosures around that. So not even allowing that avenue, not having advertising, not manipulating trends, that is a very special thing. You're 100% right. And we're very happy to have a simple subscription model instead. Which is honest and, more than enough to make sure that we can keep the ship sailing and really grow and scale this network, which is really incredible. The other thing I'll make sure I say, if folks go out to panquake.com and check out the cool new features, we have amplification features that basically not only are just our stuff invented wholly by Panquake, specifically Susie Dawson came up with this stuff, but also are going to allow people to reach their audience in a way that they haven't before. One of them, for example, is thunderquakes. This allows you to send a message to all of the people following you in the Panquake network. That message is basically an opt-in, hey, I'm going to be doing this show on next Tuesday. I'm going to be sending out this message, this quake. Would you like to amplify it? Would you like to participate in this thunderquake? So those folks can opt in, and then it goes out. It's going to be a huge boon to have that kind of thing for content creators. And there's 3 other features. I don't want to go into all of them. If folks go out to panquake.com and watch the video that Lee, you're showing in the background here, that all that will be explained to you, and it's really, really cool stuff. I'm excited because folks like you, Lee, John, other folks who have been just booted off, real networks, right? Networks just shutting down overnight. You're going to have the ability to reach your audience and know that you're actually reaching them. Right now, I'm sure, as you know, if you do throw money into the advertising pit that is a Facebook, that is, Google, you are going to not even know who you're reaching, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to basically be wasting a huge amount of that money by not having advertising and instead having honest amplification, right? And making it fun and pleasant to be doing that. We're going to have a totally different environment in Panquake, and we really want content creators to be a part of that. So.
What else is he missing, John, that makes you think it's Panquake can and will be different from the social media dystopia we're stuck in?
Well, Sean's a tech guy, and I'm not a tech guy. And as someone who's not a tech guy, I can tell you it's extraordinarily easy to understand. And listen, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm 57 years old. It really, I'm embarrassed to say, but it actually does have to be dumbed down for somebody like me. This doesn't need to be dumbed down. It's perfect. I went to it. I could understand it. I could use it. I watched the video. I spoke with Sean and with Susie. It was all crystal clear. It's very, very easy to use. So there's no reason that anybody should be intimidated by it because it's new technology and it's something that hasn't been done before. It was created with ease of use in mind, and that's why it's going to be successful.
When's it? I know we've seen a demo now that people can watch at panquake.com. When's it coming out?
So the answer to that, as it has been in the past, is it will come out when we reach our funding goals, right? We're grassroots funded. We're running a crowdfunding campaign. We need to get to the next stage, right? And to finish this last round of funding. And when we do that, then we'll be able to, bring on the folks we need to launch the beta. So the two things I'll say is...
Have you reached out to the CIA's venture capital side? What is it?
In-Q-Tel? No,
In-Q-Tel?
no, they're not allowed, believe me. If we had that, we would have been launched in a week, and we certainly would be spying on everyone, which is, what these other sites do. And you joke, but of course, if you look at the history of Silicon Valley, these other sites, these other social media platforms, they get money from places like, these, venture capital firms associated with the CIA. Not to talk too much about that dirty side of it, because we're not doing that. I also want to say we have free and open source software. I want to keep emphasizing the open source aspect here. We will be releasing our source code as well for the entire platform. That's a really important aspect. It's very near and dear to my heart from an ethical standpoint, but it also means, we'll have a longevity and the ability for Panquake to live on far beyond, who knows what awful things happening in the world. So that's really a sustainability thing too. But yeah, if folks want to, help support us, please go out and donate. You can donate in a number of cryptocurrencies if you'd like to. So, there's a lot of different options for you to be able to donate. We also have a publication called Talk Liberation. That's a newsletter, a Substack newsletter that's non-paywalled. If you do decide to subscribe to that for $5 a month, that money, all of that money goes towards the Panquake build. So that's also another way to help us out. And we do have also applications open for the beta. That means folks can go out and apply to be one of the first users in the beta. We basically have a system where we're using tokens, and we are going through the applications to basically vet people to make sure they're not bots. So, you fill out the application, and basically you will get access, or maybe you won't. We can't obviously get everybody in for the beta, but if you're interested and excited, that's another way you can sort of get in on the bottom floor. But yeah, we will launch as soon as we can launch, and we really need help. But this kind of help is coming because so many people are interested in getting around the censorship they're seeing everywhere. The last few months have really proven our model. There's a lot of buzz about Panquake. People are talking about it constantly. And I really think we're going to get not just to our funding targets, but far beyond that, and really get this thing running. So
there have already been more than 2 million site visits, which is very heartening.
Yeah, for a social media network that's not up yet, that's pretty impressive.
3,500 donors, 2 million visits, 100 and almost 180K raised, and we are just kicking ass, basically. Every time we go and work on this application, it's changing and it's growing and it's building, and we're doing all kinds of stuff that's really innovative. And we talk about it every month. So the other thing I think listeners and viewers should know is that we do these delivery meetings, right? We've had transparency throughout this entire process. So every month we do a delivery meeting and we talk about the growth in the development process, what else we've been doing around the project. And we want to make sure that people know, our donors know, that we're working day in, day out, to build this thing. So.
And I see that Susie Dawson, the creator of Panquake, is in the chat room. So anybody, if you want to ask questions of Susie, feel free. Her name is Susie 3D, and she's there if you want to throw any questions her way. Before I lose you, John, I wanted to also ask about world events.
Yes, sir.
I know we could talk about it for hours, but where do you see things going right now with Ukraine?
I don't see anything good on the horizon. I think that this is yet another one of those situations that, every generation has one where the United States is perfectly happy to pour money and weapons into a situation, have it run as a proxy war. They know that the Ukrainians can't defeat the Russians, but what they want to do is bog the Russians down. And that tired old saying that the United States is willing to fight to the last Ukrainian, I think is actually true, and that's what makes it so sad. So the Russians are going to end up with the Donbass. They're going to end up with Crimea. They're going to probably destroy Mariupol and Odessa. It's going to be terrible. There's going to be loss of life. And then that's how it's going to end. And so it's better to engage in some sort of peace talks now, even if you have to put your tail between your legs and give away something that you otherwise wouldn't want to give away. Otherwise, look at the loss of life that's on the horizon. So I'm really not optimistic. Today President Biden said that that there is another 800 million in weapons going to the Ukrainians. This is the third tranche of $800 million, in addition to the nearly 10 billion that we've already sent. Well, is that what we're going to just do from now on? We're not going to spend money on roads or schools or bridges or airports. We're going to spend it on weapons for the Ukrainians.
And you notice you don't hear any discussions or urging of peace talks from the Biden administration or from our government.
No, in fact, I mentioned that today on my own show. You don't even hear the words peace talks. If you recall, Lee, there were peace talks early on in Istanbul. The United States, of course, didn't participate. It didn't even encourage the Ukrainians to attend, but they did. They lasted 3 days. Everybody went home, and nobody's raised the idea again. Yeah.
It really is disgusting, and there seems to be no end in sight, and the U.S. really seems to want it that way.
I think they do. I think they do. They don't like Putin. They never liked Putin. He's independent. He's not moldable like Yeltsin was. He's not a friendly like Gorbachev was. And so they thought for a long time, well, we're just going to have to live with this guy, even if we don't like him. But now they see an opportunity where they don't have to live with him, and they'll let the Ukrainians do their dirty work.
Can you postulate on what, like, in the CIA, what the conversations are right now, what they're trying to achieve?
I think I can. I think that the conversations in the CIA are probably focused on training and material and things like secure communications, night vision goggles, sniper rifles, close-in stuff. I think that they're doing two things. Number one, it's going to be a lot of paramilitary training for the Ukrainians. And second is a real focus on recruiting access agents to the Russian leadership. That's what they're going to be focused on. Yeah.
I also wanted to, I saw you at an event just not too long ago. We did another stand up for Assange event. And more bad news coming on that front. The latest hurdle to having him extradited to be tortured in the U.S. they just passed the other day, and now I guess it goes to the Home Secretary or something. And then
it went to the Home Secretary yesterday. Preeti Patel. She is likely going to sign it. Julian's attorneys have 14 days to appeal to the UK Supreme Court. They probably will, but all it's going to do is delay things for 14 days. The only other thing, and I've, like I said the other night at the event, I've been accused of being overly optimistic, and I realize now that I was. Julian can still apply to the European Court of Human Rights. He can apply for relief. There are three precedents where the European Court of Human Rights refused to allow the UK to extradite to the US people who had mental illnesses. Julian is mildly autistic, and he suffers from chronic depression and anxiety. Other prisoners were not extradited because they had the same maladies. And the European Court of Human Rights believed that the U.S. practice of solitary confinement was enough to push them to attempt suicide. The problem that Julian has now is that the UK government said he's perfectly free to appeal to the European Court of Human Rights. That doesn't mean that we have to put the brakes on the extradition while his appeal is being heard. So that defeats the whole purpose of the appeal.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's not good.
I know some of you have already heard some people watching this maybe have already heard you give the speech about what kind of trial Julian will get in the United States.
Yeah.
But I think most of them probably have not yet heard that. And I would like to ask you again, what kind of trial Julian would get once he's extradited to the United States, because you went through this atrocious process as a whistleblower, revealing our torture program. And so what kind of court proceedings will those be?
Yeah, this is really an awful thing. Julian would be tried in the Eastern District of Virginia. That's the federal court that covers the CIA and the Pentagon. I'll tell you, as it relates to Julian, exactly what my jury consultant told me. His jury is going to be made up of people who work for or who have friends and relatives who work for the CIA, the Pentagon, the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, and intelligence community contractors, Beltway bandits. My jury consultant told me if we were in any other district in America, I would say, let's go for it. We're going to win. But the Eastern District of Virginia, he said, buddy, you don't have a prayer. Take the deal. The problem is, and I said this last Sunday, Julian's not been offered a deal.
Plea deal. Right.
Yeah, plea deal.
Yeah.
So we have a lot to worry about with the Eastern District. I had a judge notorious for reserving national security cases for herself. Julian has a different judge who's even worse than mine, because do you know what he did before he was a judge in the Eastern District of Virginia? He was a judge in the FISA court. The FISA court.
Which approves what, 99% of all requests?
Oh, no, far more than 99%. I actually did the research. They approved 99.81% of all requests from the CIA.
Yeah, really looking out for our privacy and our freedoms.
Not good at all.
Yeah, and as you've mentioned before, they essentially don't allow the defendant to bring forward any evidence.
Yeah, I'm glad you raised that. Yes, so they're going to invoke something called SIPA, the Classified Information Protection Act. Some of it is silly. Some of it is important. The silly stuff is they're going to physically seal the courtroom with duct tape and plastic sheeting, right? They'll take these big plastic sheets like tarps, and they'll put it over the windows and seal the windows off so that the Russians can't beam a laser at the window and read the vibrations and hear what's going on in the courtroom. They duct tape around the door. They play white noise in the vestibule so nobody outside can hear what's going on inside the courtroom. And then whenever they think that someone might mention something that maybe could possibly be classified, they do two things. One, they clear the courtroom. So the only people allowed in the courtroom are the judge, the jury, the bailiff, the clerk, the lawyers, and the defendant. That's it. And then even the jury's not allowed to hear the classified information. So in advance, the prosecutors and the judge will determine what's classified, and they'll replace those words with unclassified words. For example, this is going to sound stupid, but it's the honest to God's truth. Let's say that they want to say, well, Julian released information that inside the CIA we call Vault 7. Well, the words Vault 7, those are classified. So they're going to say, instead of Vault 7, we use the words swimming pool.
Oh, my God.
So then they're going to say, Your Honor, Julian Assange released documents called swimming pool that are very highly classified. Well, they're going to go through the whole trial like that.
As if a jury could analyze that.
Well, the jury gets a little cheat sheet of what means what, but they can't talk about it and they can't take it out with them. But the thing is when you tell the jury, listen, these individual words are so highly classified that you can't even hear them with your ears. We have to block them from your ears. They're going to say, my God, this guy's guilty.
Right.
He's so guilty, we can't even hear the words that he's accused of releasing. So the deck is stacked. He doesn't have a prayer. That's why I said Sunday, it's up to us to be there in that courtroom every day till they throw us out when they invoke SIPA. We need to be out in front, and you know that every media outlet in the world is going to be out in front. We need to be giving interviews in support of him. We have to write op-eds. We have to blow whistles if that's all that you can do. We have to do everything we can to support him and to show that he is not alone. We are there, and this is the side of righteousness.
Yeah. I mean, it's getting to that point where all that's left is feet in the streets.
That's it.
Because everything's been exhausted. Yeah,
that's right.
Well, John and Sean, thank you so much for taking the time to join me.
Thank you, Lee.
One more time, can you just let people know how they can support Panquake?
Sure. Go out to panquake.com/donate or just panquake.com and click on donate. And please, help us get across the finish line. This is the last phase of funding that we're in right now. It's going to help us get the support people to have real human support and so on. So we want to make sure we have that in place so we can serve you and give you that free information system with actual flowing information like the kind of stuff John just said, allowed to be said and shared on social.
That's it.
Thanks again. Thanks, both of you.
Thank you. See you soon.
Thanks.
There they are, Sean and John, about talking about Panquake, talking about so much more than that. And, most of the other information we covered is stuff that if Panquake were fully operational right now, you could talk about it on there and not fear that your channels are going to be canceled, that your all your videos are going to be banned globally, like mine are, 8 years worth. Not fear that you're going to be put into a filter bubble, like my tweets are, where I can tweet something out, and if it's got too many dirty words like terrorism or CIA in it, then they won't actually show the tweet to anyone. So that's the goal. We got to build up the alternatives while we continue to fight. I have another story for you here before we wrap up. And then I'm also going to tell you about my brand new show, which I hope you will support. But first, here, Biden's approval ratings are like the lowest they've ever been. Even in this fucking trumped up proxy war that we're in the middle of, normally during a war, during a U.S. backed war, during a proxy war, the U.S. president is able to push enough propaganda to say, hey, everybody get behind me. You're my, we need to all get together on this. But Biden seems to be failing even at that, despite how heavy the propaganda has been, which has been insane. It's wall to wall. I mean, I don't know if you guys turn on those mainstream channels, but it is wall to wall. Let's keep arming Ukrainians rather than ever talking about peace. Anyway, approval not doing well. So I guess he and his administration have decided, well, let's do some things that sound as if we might do a little bit of the maybe, sort of, kind of the things that we promised during the campaign for the presidency. And so this is just the other day. This is CBS News reporting this. Changes to student, which explains why they're so excited about something that is not as big a deal as they act like. Changes to student loan programs could bring millions closer to getting out of debt, Education Department says. Oh my God, they're going to do it. They're going to get everybody out of debt. This is incredible. Well, what are they doing here? The Education Department announces fixes on Tuesday. Yeah, good luck announcing fixes to the United States right now. Fixes on Tuesday to multiple student loan programs, giving thousands of borrowers immediate relief from student loan debt and bringing millions more years closer to having their student loans. I don't know why they wrote it that way. Millions more years closer to having their student loans forgiven. It comes as the Biden administration continues to examine canceling student loan debt for millions of Americans. Just that line drives me nuts. Examine. We're going to have a meeting to write a paper on maybe considering canceling a couple of student loan debt. It's honestly like, I wrote an article a while back on how Biden could actually cancel student loan debt, federal debt, immediately. Like, he could sign a piece of paper and it'd be over. But they're not going to do that, right? Because they like having people in debt. They like forcing people into, into wage slavery in a way that they don't necessarily want. Having people in debt not just makes billions of dollars for so many different industries, but it also helps keep people under control. They're generally not fighting back. They're generally not in the streets if they have crushing debt. And we have a debt bubble in multiple regards. We have auto debt bubble. We have a student loan debt bubble. We have a housing debt bubble. So those things are all good for our economy that runs on debt. The changes are being made to public service loan forgiveness programs and the income-driven payment plans. According to the Education Department, the fixes will give 40,000 borrowers immediate forgiveness and bring at least 3.6 million borrowers closer to relief by at least 3 years through income-driven repayments. And here's a quote. Student loans were never meant to be a life sentence. They love saying beautiful things like this, but it certainly felt that way for borrowers locked out of debt relief that they're eligible for. But you'll notice that they're given like 15 different steps that you could maybe have some of your debt forgiven. And it's like, fucking get rid of it. Fucking wipe it off the books. He could do that tomorrow. Not to mention, this shit should never cost this crazy amounts of money to begin with. In other countries, they give their people university education for free. Here in the United States, you've got to give an arm and a limb and a semen donation and a fucking blood drive. You got to, it's insane what people have to pay just to go to school. And especially if they want to go to the best schools because they want to be up for the best jobs. Tens of thousands of dollars. People often graduate with $100,000 in student loan debt. And if they wanted to do anything that isn't one of these big money jobs, if they want to do anything that's not a hedge funder or a fucking banker or a lobbyist, if they want to do something that's not one of those things, then they'll never pay it off. They'll be paying this debt for the rest of their lives, which keeps them poor, which is good for the system. Largely good for the system. And it's like, Biden's been in office how long? And he said he was going to, he floated the idea of erasing student loan debt. And here we are over a year into his administration, and it's maybe we're gonna with a few people will get some forgiveness some of the time if they can prove that they hate their lives. Seeing if there's anything else useful in here. The efforts announced Tuesday come as the Biden administration has already canceled more than $17 billion in debt for some 725,000 borrowers since President Biden took office. That's not really true. It's largely small cancellations. It's not. He largely has not like saved people's lives from crushing debt. But you'll also notice this says something about our media, right? Our media, they're in the job of Joe Biden promotion. That is their job, to sit here and say, oh, look at what a good job he's doing, how great he's doing. I mean, so that was CBS News. How many articles in the years since Biden got into office, how many articles has CBS News ran on how Biden hasn't done shit on student loan debt? Probably zero. So that'll show you that simply by the choice, even if that were an accurately written article, simply by the choice of, well, we're not going to highlight the fact that Biden's done nothing on student loan debt, and instead we're going to wait until they've done something, here's a little fucking piecemeal. Yeah, we're going to give you a little crumb. Then we'll write an article, Biden giving crumbs to people. So that tells you something about the media. They're like CBS. They're in the job of Joe Biden promotion. And that's not what your media should be. Your media should be largely adversarial to the dominant, controlling class, to the people that have all the airwaves that, Biden can stand up on a podium. Well, maybe he can't stand up. He could kind of stand up with three people helping him and someone, pushing from behind, and maybe some strings coming down from. They'll have him in one of those suits, like when you see like a Peter Pan in a play, they'll just lower him down with strings attached, and maybe he can give a speech. But anyway, Biden can stand and give a speech, and it'll be covered to all of America. There'll be countless articles written about this. So that's how easy it is for him to get his message out there. The idea of the press, the point of the press should be to cover the things that don't automatically get all of the coverage, and be critical about them and dig into them and dig into the reality, not do what fucking CBS and the other mainstream media outlets do, which is give a fawning propaganda show for your ruling elite. And even Fox News, which obviously they'll spend every episode attacking Joe Biden. That's their job. But they won't attack the system as a whole. They won't go after capitalism. They won't go after corporate America for the most part. They'll just go after Joe Biden, because their job, and Fox News is as important in it as CBS and the others, their job is to make you think that there is some kind of massive difference between the two sides, the Republicans and Democrats. Well, you turn on Fox News and they hate Joe Biden. You turn on CNN, MSNBC, they love Joe Biden. So clearly, these are two very different things. Yeah, look at what they're not talking about. Think about what they're not talking about, what is not on the agenda, okay? It's most of the U.S. foreign policy. It's the capitalism as a whole, which is all of our lives, how it's set up, wage slavery, it's the environmental destruction. You could just go down the list for an hour on everything they don't talk about and how it's largely the most important stuff in our lives. It's truly incredible. All right. Well, I want to wrap up here by telling you about my new show. It's going to be called The Most Censored News with Lee Camp. And it's going to be online, shorter episodes, 3 to 4 days a week. And it's going to be kind of like, it won't have correspondence, so it won't be much like the second half of a Redacted Tonight episode, but it'll be a lot like the first half of a Redacted Tonight episode. Not in a a giant news studio maybe, but otherwise, same writing, research, passion, jokes, images, clips, all that stuff, everything you got from kind of that first half of Redacted Tonight. And it'll be called The Most Censored News with Lee Camp. And it's done, I'm doing it in coordination with, it's made possible by Mint Press and Behind the Headlines. Mint Press and Behind the Headlines is Mint Press's video platform that they have created. And here's the thing, though. It can only happen if their fundraising campaign is successful. That's the deal we've made, that this show will exist if their fundraising campaign is successful. And so I'm going to put the link in the comment section. I'm also going to play their fundraising video for you because it's also interesting. Even if you're not in a position that you can help out their fundraiser, I think you'll enjoy watching the video. So Manar Adley is who you'll see hosting the video. It's just a few minutes long. I think 6 or 10 minutes long or something. Manar Adley is who you see hosting the video. She's the creator, the founder, and editor-in-chief of Mint Press. Mint Press, you've probably, hopefully heard of. One of the best outlets out there, independent, not owned by corporate clowns, not owned by corporate America, not owned and sponsored by the biggest fucking villains in the world. Truly independent site that does impressive work. Has people like Dan Cohen and Alan McLeod, and publishes Chris Hedges articles and so much more. So I'm going to show you that video, but also I hope you're able to join in the fundraising campaign. It's at Indiegogo. You can also just search for Mint Press and Behind the Headlines at Indiegogo.com. But what was I about to say? Oh, there's a bunch of great perks there as well. If you sign up, you get tote bags and things like that. So here we go. And I'll wrap up the show after this video.
Hey everyone, I'm Manar Adley, founder and editor-in-chief of Mint Press News and director of our new video project, Behind the Headlines. I have an urgent appeal to make to everyone who cares not only for our First Amendment, but for the future of our planet. Independent watchdog journalism that holds the military class accountable is under threat. With the war in Ukraine raging on and corporate media outlets pushing a pro-war agenda, we've entered wartime where having access to alternative information to the war machine is crucial to preventing escalation. The nuclear arms race is not a joke. We're experiencing an unprecedented amount of censorship, unlike anything we've seen before. Just in the last month, independent anti-war journalists have been targeted in an organized smear campaign, deplatformed, outright purged off of social media platforms, and even given state-affiliated labels on their accounts. YouTube has deleted hundreds of thousands of historical videos for prominent anti-war journalists and figures, including Abby Martin, Chris Hedges, and Lee Camp, and is demonetizing political content everywhere to hit our bank accounts. Our very own fundraisers on GoFundMe were just taken down without reason and an opportunity to appeal. And this doesn't even include the past 5 years of being algorithmically shadow banned and targeted by big tech. These are the modern day book burners. They are trying to discredit the work of the most important dissenting voices of our time. They want to cause division and censor any information that challenges the corporate and military establishment's agenda. They want war to fill the bank accounts of the executives at Raytheon and Lockheed Martin. For the last several years, Mint Press has been at the forefront of sounding the alarm about the deep state working with Silicon Valley tech giants like Google, Facebook, and Twitter to control the free flow of information and your news feed to ensure any sort of alternative information or narrative to the establishment algorithmically disappears. We are nowhere near backing down because the future of our planet and the prosperity of peace and justice depend on our reporting. This is why I've partnered up with the Media Freedom Foundation and Project Censored to create a new video reporting project called Behind the Headlines. To help us build this project, we will need your support. We need to raise $400,000 in the next year So we're creating our first phase fundraiser to be stated for $200,000, and it's just a 2-month campaign. The goal here is to create a video platform that is 100% people funded, a nonprofit video platform with the most important dissenting names in independent media that have felt the brunt of this censorship campaign. We're working with political comedian Lee Camp and filmmaker and investigative journalist Dan Cohen. Our board includes FBI whistleblower Colleen Rowley, international human rights attorney Todd Pierce, and president of the Media Freedom Foundation, the director of Project Censored himself, Mickey Huff. Lee Camp is from a long line of political comedians, from George Carlin to Bill Hicks. We're giving him a platform with full editorial freedom to write and produce his own political comedy. Lee Camp's shows are like a form of investigative comedy. They give the audience something to think about regarding key issues of the day that are often distorted in the establishment press or ignored altogether. Given the many challenges we face, from the climate crisis, forever wars, and the global pandemic, it's important to laugh when and how we can. Otherwise, we'd have to just wail and cry. Lee blends wit and dark humor with quality reporting that is truly a call to action. Dan Cohen is a jack of all trades. He's an investigative journalist based in Washington, D.C., reporting from the belly of the beast. He's currently working on several guerrilla-style documentaries where he traveled to the heart of conflicts targeted by U.S. imperialism and corporate pillaging. The first is a 3-part series about a revolution in formation in Haiti. Another is about the failures of the peace accords in Colombia. Another about resistance in Gaza and Israel's temple movement and their plans to destroy Al-Aqsa as part of an end-of-times prophecy. All of these issues trace back to the U.S. empire and its plots to create and maintain instability around the world. Now, in addition to the documentaries and written investigations, Dan is also leading our video investigative series called Behind the Headlines. He has exposed how corporate media is in bed with the Pentagon, the Biden administration, and much, much more. For far too long, some of the best and most important dissenting journalists have been forced to turn to foreign state media to produce the most groundbreaking watchdog journalism because the US legacy media has completely failed the public. It specializes in producing fast food news that is sensationalized, divisive, working as a mouthpiece for the two-party duopoly, weapons manufacturers like Lockheed Martin and Raytheon, and hawkish think tanks that are directly funded by NATO. We don't have a watchdog media anymore. We have an extremist corporate media beating the drums of war. So we can't rely on the legacy media in our own country to tell us what exactly is happening at home and around the world. We shouldn't have to go to foreign state media outlets to fill in those holes either. It's time that we create our own and become the media. The truth is, we can't keep waiting for the oligarchy to give us a media that represents we the people. It's time we unite on a broader front of nonpartisanship that holds the elite accountable, the way journalism is defined by our First Amendment, to revive the fourth estate and create our very own media that goes behind the headlines. It's time that we put our money where our mouths are, because our First Amendment and its free press, free speech principles are all on life support. To help us build this project, we will need your support. We have to raise $400,000 in the next year. So we're going to start with this $200,000 first phase fundraiser for the next 2 months. And here's what it's going to support. Lee Camp's new weekly political comedy show, The Most Censored News with Lee Camp. And we're completing 4 documentaries by Dan Cohen. Endgame Apocalypse, inside Israel's Temple Mount movement and its plans to destroy Al-Aqsa Mosque. Israel's May 2021 mega assault on Gaza and the armed resistance that won the war. Inside Colombia's narco state and diabolical plot between the DEA and Colombian government to plunge the country in a state of civil war. And finally, we're wrapping up a 3-part series inside Haiti's rising resistance movement against neoliberalism and US occupation, and how the US is trying to quash it. We're also launching a monthly Behind the Headlines report project, an investigative video series with Dan Cohen, covering the military-industrial complex, how propaganda works, and much more. We're also launching a weekly video podcast interview series with myself, Manar Adley. I hope that you will join us today.
Cool. Hope you enjoyed that. I put the link in there. You can go to Indiegogo.com and just type in behind the headlines. You should find it. Hold on one second. I'll put the link in one more time in the comment section. And yeah, I know it sounds like a lot of money, but obviously these are big projects they're talking about that involve a lot of people and a lot of employees. But you know, if you're able to give $5, that's usually what ends up making these things possible. Is 1,000 people or 10,000 people or whatever giving $5. So thank you for your help. And if that fundraiser is successful, then there will be a new comedy show to replace Redacted Tonight. It'll be different. It won't be identical, but it'll be close. And I and you, like always, hopefully, will keep fighting. Talk soon.